there is obviously no question. We talked about it. Agility came up pretty often. If you had a bingo card, change turned up, agility turned up, digitalization turned up, WhatsApp turned up, lots of stuff turned up. There is no question in our minds that leaders embrace agility. They want agility in the organization. They treasure it, they value it, and they see a competitive advantage out of it. So, what then is the challenge? The challenge then is the context, right? Eh, can you raise your hands if in your organization you face some of this? Those of you who see this in your organization, please raise your hands. So, would you agree that it's a new business as usual? That's the only thing I struggle with. I don't think it's the new business as usual. I think it's been around long enough. It was there when I started my career. It's there now too. We all struggle with the fact that the velocity of change and the pace of change is beyond our abilities. Our natural work, our day jobs do not give us the skill set or the capability to deal with the change. It never did. It perhaps will now. In this context, given that leaders need agility and they realize the velocity of change, how do they deal with it? So I'm a leader and I've decided Sunday breakfast meeting that there are some key steps I need to take to grow. And the first thing I do is come to office on Monday, send out a mail, expecting training on Tuesday and expecting go live on Wednesday. It's very likely that at the beginning of the week, I sent off a mail to L&D saying, please get the class done. And at the end of the week, I'm going to go back to L&D and say, where is the effectiveness here? You remember Ravi's pain point in the beginning, in the beginning of the day where he said, please don't send people to us who don't have a need to be fulfilled in that session. Without building awareness and desire, you cannot infuse knowledge into people. Why do we do this? We do this because we focus on a future state. We as leaders, now don't think L&D, think leaders. As leaders, we focus on future states. Our articulation of the change is we are going to get there. If you're introducing a new system, you're going to talk about what's great about the new system. If you're going to talk about a new competency management, a new performance management, a new succession plan, or a new biometric system to see who's coming in and who's going out, you'll always talk about what works best in that new system. You talk about the future state. But organizations don't change. People do. What does that mean? We think as leaders in those big boxes, right? We have a current state which is red, it's ugly, it's disgusting. And we have this beautiful, wonderful future state which is green, which we really, really get, which we love. But the change doesn't occur until every one of our employees have bought into it. Every one of those small boxes need to go through their transition. They need to move from a current state through a transition state to a future state. And what happens when we don't do this in this fashion? You have people dropping out. During your transition state, you're already developing holes. In the training sessions, you're already having people saying, I don't know why I'm here, and they're walking out and saying, I don't have actions from it. It's done. The training session was for that period. We talked in the morning about the medium and the context in which training is occurring, but think about the transfer of knowledge itself. It doesn't sit. And when it doesn't sit, your future state is full of holes. It's a Swiss cheese picture. You don't get the future state you want. You don't have the right people practicing the right behavior at the right times. Sorry, I tend to move around and I'm struggling with this. The secondary part is your change is not the only game in town. Each of your employees is dealing with a zillion change personally and professionally. They are in their own current transition and future states. What then is the solution? So this is Prosci's model of individual change. Prosci is a world leader in change management. And their model of individual change is pretty simple. The mnemonic is add car. And I'll take you through a case that we were applying this, right? So we had a successor to the CEO, great individual, ready for the role, struggling with delegation. Yes, CXO struggling with delegation. And the initial attempts to help them on the delegation path was send them to training. They have been exposed to training, they have mentorship, they've had a lot of knowledge put into them. In conversation with that individual on why isn't this working for you, the answer that came up was very simple. I'm doing well already. The game started with reframing awareness for the need of the change. It's not about become good at delegation. That's the change. The need for the change is, guess what? You're in this path to becoming the head of the organization. You need to take up a lot more on your table. And for you to do that, here are 5 things that need to get done. I need to frame the change in the context of their need. Is that enough? No. It's much like us all needing exercise, us all having a blood pressure report that says it's too high. We all have needs for change, but we may not have the desire to sign up to that change. A decision needs to be made for the person to say, okay, I get it and I want to be in it. And that doesn't necessarily flow from the need for the change being a rational process. It's not all rational. It's not all emotional, but it's not all rational. When this person then said, I get it, how do I do it? I'm struggling because this is the workflow, At this point, they have stopped talking about why they need to do it. Now they're contesting, can they do it? Should they do it? Would they be able to do it? That's when they're moved into desire. And that's when you start your discussion on knowledge. Don't send them to training first. Send them to training only after you're sure they've got awareness and desire in place. You got the knowledge done, and again, this came up in the earlier panel. Knowledge is not enough. You got to fail fast, fail frequently. You got to fail to learn. Did they have a work environment in which the 70-20 actually works to embellish the 10? Can they leverage 70-20, and can they leverage 70-20 to grow, and for that, can they leverage the 10? Finally, you're not done till you're done. It's not when they first show the signs of the new behavior that you're done. You're done when they have finally started applying that behavior again and again. This is an individual model of change. It has no cultural or contextual underpinning. It can be applied in any context. What does this mean for us? It means that we now have a mechanism to mobilize people to get results, and getting results is holy grail. Again, we had that coming up in earlier panels too. Being enabler is great, but so long as you're one among many enablers and no one can point to you and say, you helped do this, it's, well, you're part of the great team. You sit along with a group of people and get an award, but that's it. But you want to play L&D and you want to say, I'm creating a learning organization here. I'm changing the learning culture here. I'm moving from a blame culture to a failure culture. And a failure culture is awesome. A failure culture revels in failure because it learns from it. You want to play those games, you got to show results. This is the concept, this is the structure. What does research say about this? To start with, there is a direct correlation. Have any change management mechanism. Have a structure to apply change in your organization. Have a way to engage with your organization to apply change. And immediately you have a 6x likelihood of your change succeeding. Versus 15% of projects succeeding with no change management. Having an effective, excellent change management gives you 90% project success. That's your number right there. Now, is that enough? No. Who is driving these changes? Who is bringing this kind of thinking into the organization? For all the discussion which sometimes borders on being a victim, you know what, we are L&D, no one listens to us. 33% of change projects of this scale and complexity are brought by HR and OD. It's us. It's us driving this. Well, if we are saying all this helps us make the change meaningful to people, it helps people adopt and use the change. Are people happy about it? Yes, research says that when you do apply change management, 70% of people are very positive about it. 26% are neutral. But I can live with those scores. The people signed off change does work. All right. I promised you a formula. I promised you that there are some characteristics of good change that all of you will see in the case studies that come up. And here is possibly some things that you can keep in mind as patterns for success, again from research. The first one, which has turned up in research for 2.5 decades, you need an effective sponsor. You need the right sponsor with the right level of credibility to be introducing the change in the organization. You need a structured change management approach. You need a way in which you can bring this change, stages, phases to the organization. It says dedicated change management professionals, but I would ask you to think in terms of make sure you're putting in time and effort into change management. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not possibly going to happen as a part of your day job. You need to think this through. You might need additional people, but you need resourcing for this. You need the middle management on your side. Research says that resistance, the largest amount of resistance comes from the middle managers. Guess why? Because they got to deliver on their business as usual and deliver the change to you. They are the group that needs the most support to deal with the change. And not far behind is needing the employees to sign up to it. The employees need to feel comfortable with the fact that you're bringing this change in a meaningful way. Even if it's a change that doesn't sit well with them, you change my location, there's nothing good. I can get the organizational value out of it, but You just took away my day's schedule, my dropping of kids at school, and so on and so forth. What's in it for me? There is no what's in it for you. Here's what's required for you, and here's how we all gain collectively. Open and honest communication works all the time. If you get all this right, make sure that we are connected with project management teams, and this is not something we naturally do well. We are very comfortable with expecting a mail or an update coming from another team, the specialist team, the expert teams. And we set up that communication in such a way that they will speak to us only when they have to. No, we need to be in bed with the project management team to make sure that we understand the solution being proposed. So here are the storylines that I would like you to keep, the skeleton that I would like you to keep in mind as you listen to these wonderful case studies. There is an individual model of change. It is about the ad card. It's about making sure that before you infuse knowledge into a person about the change, make sure they have awareness and desire. And don't stop working on the change till you have reinforced it. There is a context to the change. Effective change management does yield you results. And to do that well, you need these key strengths in your side. You need a good sponsor. You need to be able to connect to the organization. You need to be able to do that in a repeatable, meaningful fashion. On that note, again, these exceptional cases that are turning up from our panel are the ones that should make you believe that even in this weird, massively changing context, we can succeed. It's not impossible. It's doable. Though, given how they say it, you're probably going to wonder, damn, I wish I could be them. They're pretty cool at it. In the interests of time, the structure we had in mind is that we go through the presentations, and then we stop for Q&A, and then we have a panel discussion, and then we break for lunch. We are keenly aware that we sit between you and lunch, right? What we're probably going to do is take away time from the Q&A and put it into the lunch. We might probably, depending upon the time it takes, we might probably say, can we do the Q&A over lunch, right? But let's leave that for later after we hear our panelists. Our first panelist who's going to speak is Guru. Guru brings to you a change management case, a leadership and development change management case that talks about it when you're dealing with complex structures. How does it look like when you're dealing with a group needing to change? Not just one team or one organization, an entire group needs to change. What does it look like? Guru, all yours.